the Fat Frequency Maestro SE and the Fat Frequency Maestro Mini. Let's talk about it. Now, these IEMs were sent to me as part of a tour. These are not permanent units, they're just something I got to check out. So I haven't had a ton of time with these IEMs, and I wanted to share what I had with them. I've been very interested in them. I was able to demo both of these at CanGym, and I wasn't really sure what to think. But now that I've had them in home, I've got to be able to compare them to some of the other fat frequency IEMs that I have and be able to think about them. So let's get into it and start off by talking about the build quality. Yes, the family photo. Okay, 3 out of 4. Okay, this is the Afu Magic 1 to the right, and to the left is the Mini. And you'll notice that the Mini, even though it's mini, it's still kind of chunky. It does have a short nozzle. It's easy to fit. It does have a cozy nozzle that's easy to put on ear tips, which is, to me, a really nice thing. Like, the Afu Magic 1 doesn't have that, but I don't really have problems with ear tips on the Magic 1. But yeah, it is kind of a small IEM. Let's compare this to some of the ones we have. Like, the look at the Maestro Mini versus the Fat Frequency Grand Maestro, you'll notice that it's just a lot tinier. It has a pretty blue faceplate. It's a very short nozzle, so it's really light and easy to fit with the Grand Maestros. I wouldn't say it's really heavy, but it's a little bit chunky. Like, it's a little bit thick, and it's something to note, and it's not ideal. Now, the Grand Maestro versus the SC is an interesting comparison. They have a similar nozzle type, but you'll notice that the Grand Maestro is a little bit longer. Now, there is another Fat Freak I know coming out that's kind of like a mini SE, like coming out that's supposed to be a smaller kind of Grand Maestro without the modules, but we'll see. I saw some pictures of that on Reddit, and I showed that to my short bus, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But again, it's interesting to note the shell size of everything, and I just wanted to demonstrate kind of the fit for you guys so you can kind of see how big these IEMs are. Now, this is the SE versus the Magic 1. Again, you can see that it is a pretty big shell, and it is a little bit bigger than the or a little bit smaller than the Grand Maestro, especially in its size. It seems like it has a flat connection, whereas the Grand Maestro has a recessed connection. I personally like flatter connections because I find it's easier to put IEMs on, but like there was a problem keeping the cable on that they came with, and so I had a minor concern with this IEM. So let's look at the frequency response of these graphs, and we're going to kind of go through a few of them. We're kind of doing a 2-for-1 since this is part of a tour, and it's probably not as thorough as I might normally want to do, but we'll do the best that we can and kind of talk about how the sound is. I always had high expectations of the Maestro SC, and I just kind of thought it was sort of middling. It had decent bass, but not great. It wasn't very impactful. I feel like the Grand Maestro has deeper, richer, and better bass. And this IEM just kind of came across as kind of neutral, kind of bland. Like, my line is kind of my neutral target, and it just didn't really feel super impactful to me. And so I wasn't a big super fan of it. Let's look at the Maestro Mini versus the SC. You can see that the Maestro Mini does have a lot of bass, but the problem that it has is like, it has this huge amount of 3 to 4K region, so it kind of comes across a little bit hazy and odd to me. I think if they had dialed this down quite a bit significantly to this level here, it would have sounded a lot better. Now, I don't know. I mean, some people say that the Grand Maestro Mini only being like 450 is, maybe a good deal because you get this level of bass. I feel like you can get that level of bass versus a lot of IEMs, and this upper mids just kind of kills the sound signature for me. I mean, some people are different. We all have our preferences, but for me, the Maestro Mini was not a very great IEM. The Grand Maestro SE was better, but again, that channel imbalance kind of bothered me. The next thing I wanted to show you is the Maestro Mini versus the Scarlett Mini. Now, I'm not without heart. I do love bass, and I think if you're gonna go for a bass IEM, and you're gonna go for something from Fat Freak, I would recommend the Scarlett Mini. I think the Scarlett Mini at that kind of midpoint price is really good. I think it's a beautiful set. I think it has a little bit more bass, but I mean, you're not buying this to be flat, neutral, boring. No, you're getting this to be a bass canon, something that you don't have to EQ, that you can just chuck in your ears, and it's like, and it's just, wow, amazing. That's what you want. And that's what I would recommend, the Fat Freak Scarlett Mini. I think it has a comfortable shell. I think it's really good, and I think it's a fun IEM that's easy to recommend. Let's look at a few other comparisons. I wanted to show you the Scarlett Mini versus the SE. I think these two really trade blows. I mean, in a vacuum, if someone offered me, you know, the same price for both of them, yeah, I would take the SE, especially if the channel matching was perfect. But like, you know, at their price points, I think the SE is $2,000. I think the Scarlett Mini is sometimes, you know, without its cable, it's like, you know, $600. I think the Scarlett Mini would get my vote if you're just looking for a fun bass cannon set. But if you're looking at something that's kind of endgame with good bass, it doesn't have great bass. It just has good bass. And that's kind of my problem with the SE, is that when you're paying that kind of money, you should get great bass, fantastic bass, amazing bass, something unique, a little special, not just Harmon. And it just felt like Harmon to my ears. And that's kind of my problem with it, unfortunately. A couple other things to look at, you know, like we look at the Maestro SE, very similar to the Blue Down. I still like the overall performance of the Grand Maestro better than the Maestro SE. I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just being used to it. Maybe it's buyer's, you know, preference. But I still think that, you know, the Grand Maestro still, to me, is a fantastic set, and that would get my vote, or go to the Scarlett Mini for a fun set. But it just kind of depends on what you want, you know. At this price, it's all super expensive. The next one I want to show you is this. Like, to me, if I were to recommend an IEM to somebody that has a lot of bass, that's really thick, rich sub bass, I would probably go the SIMGOT EM10 over the Fat Frequencies SC. I mean, their bass shelves are about the same. They're really pretty close, but the SIMGOT EM10 is about, I don't know, a fifth of the price of the SE. And I think that's kind of where I would go with it. Like my personal take, I think build quality on the shells is maybe a little bit better. I think that the fit on the SIMGOT EM10 would be better. I mean, I just reviewed the EM10 on channel. If you guys want to check out that video, you can. You know, this is a funny hobby as far as talking about ranking this IEM. I do rate the SE, but I mean, you look at these prices and they're, you know, there's a lot of other options that could be a real bass cannon for you. I think the SC is going to have that better technicalities, but I don't really think technicalities are something that you really need to get. I think it's overemphasized sometimes in the hobby and something that's kind of ignored. I think you got to be careful with IEMs after a certain price. And I mean, what I've said, you know, I try to give advice when I can, but overall, I try to say, you know, over $200, try to demo it first, or try to buy it from somebody where you can return it, so you don't have to lose everything if you don't like it. Because there's so many different sound signatures. You got to experiment with EQ. Again, the Fat Freak Maestro SE, I do think is a solid set, but I think with stuff like the Fat Freak Scarlett Mini, or maybe that new Fat Freak IEM that's coming out, I think that could be something easier to think about. Like, I really rate the Super Mix right now, and I love that IEM so much. And I think that's something to consider for a lot of people that are looking to save money. There's stuff like the Davinci that also has good bass, or the EM10. There's just a lot of options out there for this hobby right now. I mean, even the Pilgrim, I was listening to that today, and it's just, I feel like that has the technicalities that people are kind of talking about, and a lot of good things going on for it, and it's a lot cheaper. I mean, for that price, I mean, you could get an EM10, a Dunu Davinci, a Hype 4, a SIMGOT Super 4. You know, you could get like 5, 6 IEMs, and heck, even High Senior Mega 5 EST. You could get all these IEMs for that price of the SE. And I'm not saying it's a bad IEM, but it's one of those things that you got to demo it yourself first before you actually decide to go over it. Now let's talk about the Maestro Mini. I know there's been a lot of people that like the Maestro Mini, but the Maestro Mini I was not a fan of. I mean, for $475, you just get kind of this middling approach. It doesn't have great mids. It has kind of fun highs, but that 5K peak messes with the mids and the highs for me, and it just kind of ruins everything. It ruins the soundstage. It ruins the resolution for me. It doesn't really have great tone. I don't think there's technicalities that really make it pop or make it some kind of an amazing IEM. I don't know. I mean, if you like the Maestro Mini, bueno, good for you. Enjoy it. But what I'm trying to do with my ranking list, and I'll come up here and show you, it's really for like, if you came up to me on the street and were like, hey, bro, what should I buy? Like, bro, just look at my ranking list so I don't have to talk to you guys. I like talking to you guys. I like talking to audio, but sometimes, you know, there's a point where it's just like, dude, have you seen the list? Have you checked it out? And like, for me, the SE just doesn't feel like value. Like I find stuff at that price point, you know, from like when you can see and say, I see something from their company that's better at that price. I see something that's cheaper, that's better. I just don't see the appeal of it. But it's not like I think it's so bad that I'm going to shame you for liking it. That's not what I'm here for this hobby to do. It's just 100% not for me, and I just don't love it. So as a summary, I'm really happy I was able to do this tour and participate. And I really like both of these IEMs. And I think the SE could be a really good IEM if money was no hassle and it didn't have a channel imbalance. And the Maestro, it's a cutie, but I would just go with the Scarlet Mini for my personal taste of upper mids and Giga Chad bass. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?